Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Blockchain Bernie, episode 389. Today's crypto news is wild. Anthony Scaramucci, the Skybridge Capital bigwig, just dropped a hot take. Solana is the future, and it might even flip Ethereum. So think about that. If it flips Ethereum, that means, man, it'll 4x or so from where it is right now. So we would be at like $600 or something per sol if Ethereum stays as it is. So let's unpack this in this video. So make sure you watch it to the end and you'll see all the pros and cons and the different views that we have out there in the Sol versus ETH race here. Right? So what is this all about? It's about the narrative that we have about Solana as an Ethereum killer. So this narrative has been out there for a long time, and I've never heard Toli, the founder of Solana, using that narrative. He was always trying to calm people down and say, hey, you know, everything has its place. And he's true. Everything has its place in the world. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with Ethereum from my point of view, not from Toli's point of view, and definitely not from Anthony Scaramucci's point of view, right? You might still remember Anthony Scaramucci from his short gig in the first Trump administration. It was really a short gig there. It was a little bit funny to watch from my point of view. But, you know, never judge people for anything or so. It's just, you know, it was his gig and his quick stunt there, which was fine. And he's running Skybridge Capital, and they are quite successful in the crypto world. He's a big Bitcoin fan, but he's also a Solana fan, and he dropped that today. It's all over the press, and he thinks Solana might flip Ethereum. He also mentioned he's not against Ethereum, or he doesn't think anything's wrong with Ethereum. He just has understood the Solana story a bit better now. Those were his words. So, and that's my experience, right? The more you dive into Solana, the more you see why it's important to be fast and to have cheap transactions in order to conquer the world and in order to get mass adoption. And one thing is super, super clear, you know, any crypto, any currency, any blockchain, you know, if it's not being adopted widely by billions of people, literally, we have like 8 billion or so in the world. We need to cross that 1 billion mark at some point in time. If it's not adopted mainstream, you know, the most of the value of blockchain that it could have is just not materializing, right? It's just like, think about, you have a US dollar bill or some amount of money, and only 10% of people, 2% of people accept it. That money is not a great value, right? So we need that mass adoption, and you know, Solana is the only chain out there that can actually get mass adopted, right? Because then we need to run so many transactions per second. We're already running like daily 3,000, 4,000 transactions each and every second on the Solana chain, and think about where that might increase to once we have mass adoption. And that's just not possible with Ethereum. And then come the people that say, okay, it's all in the L2s, but then you give everything away to the L2s. The L2s are not really decentralized. Why is crypto even there if it's not decentralized? I could then use traditional finance and all these types of things. And it seems like Scaramucci has understood this story. So he's a big Solana fan. He's a big Bitcoin fan. And, you know, the ETH price, it has caught up recently. So if we look at the past few months, the price of ETH has appreciated more. It has outpaced Solana here. And Solana actually was, you know, has been quite disappointing after its high of about $293 in January this year. And we've been running for 5-6 months now of disappointing price movement, and kind of like a dancing around the $150 mark. And nobody knows how it's going, right? And it's a time of crazy risks. It's a time of, in my personal opinion, crazy geopolitical risks. So so let's see what's happening. And there's no guarantee that the price of Sol will rise at this point in time to this and that. I honestly do believe, and I'm with Scaramucci in that case, that the Sol price will increase way higher from where it's at right now. It's going to be at several $1,000s at some point in time, but who knows when that is going to happen, right? And it's often like, there is a stream of positive news. There's lots of progress over years and years and years, and it's not until there is a real breakthrough and all these news suddenly materialize, right? It's like a house, and you make a progress, and then you show them the house, and then people have to imagine in their imagination, like, what does this look like if this wall is going to be painted and this flooring is going to be replaced and everything. Not many people can make that effort of imagination. That's why so many houses, when they're not fixed up, they sell way under value. So it often happens with token prices. It happens with stock prices, and I like to mention that example of Tesla, a stock from 2012 to 2018. It did nothing, right? The stock was going sideways for years and years and years, even though it was clear for any educated observer that at some point, something like a mass market car as the Model 3 will materialize at some point in time. But it was not until it was there and people saw it on the streets everywhere that the stock skyrocketed, and it made that like 15x movement one at a time. And by the way, I'm 100% convinced with what we have in the pipeline, with Tesla's Optimus robot, with the unsupervised full self-driving and everything, it will not be unless it's there everywhere. And people see those Optimus robots in people's houses everywhere. And they see the unsupervised robotaxis driving around anywhere. And then it will suddenly appreciate, and it might make that another 10 or 15x thing. And that's the reason I'm not parting with my Tesla stock. I'll just keep them where they are. That's with price movements, and it's likely the same with Sol, right? It's hovering around that 150 mark, and nobody knows how long it'll take. And it might, with any kind of geopolitical crises and stuff like that, it might get dragged down drastically in the meantime, but I'm quite sure it'll make its way up. And I tell you why I also think that. And interestingly, Scaramucci mentioned that also, and many others mention that. They say Sol needs wider use cases, right? Because we had NFTs, we had meme coins, right? The meme and NFTs faded, right? Then meme coins were there. Meme coins are fading now also, which just puts a little bit of a burden on the Sol price, because much of it has been meme coins the past few months, and that's fading now, right? So we need Sol to be used for wider stuff, and without a storage layer, right? If you just think about Sol as it is, and the only place a Sol developer, someone that develops a dApp, a decentralized app on Solana, the only place these devs can store anything is in Solana accounts, and the Solana accounts don't scale. There's a problem there, right? So we can't really make a wide spectrum of apps and a wide spectrum of use cases. And these are badly needed for the Sol price to break out long term. So, and that's where Xandeum, we're building that scalable storage layer for Solana. And the Munich release, the fully functional prototype, is just about to be released. And it all runs on, the storage is offloaded from the validators to a set of PNodes Those are the provider nodes, storage provider nodes. They only do storage. They don't need to, validate or create transactions or create blocks or something. They just do the storage, but they are supervised by the Solana validators. And they're cryptographically supervised and challenged, and they use Solana's for trust anchoring and all these type of things. So they are basically a second tier of Solana accounts, and that opens up so much more use cases for Solana. And I'm reading that everywhere in the press these days, that the further development of the Sol price is dependent on wider use cases. We need to get out of just trading with Solana, right? And that's tough because Toli, as the founder and head and, leader of Solana, he is a trading guy. He made it for trading. Literally, his first deck was blockchain at the speed of NASDAQ. And that's what Solana is built for. But it needs to go into other territory in order to break out of $150 and go to like $1,500, $3,000, $6,000, right? And it will be there, and Xandeum is going to be a main catalyst to drive that. All right, so that was today's live stream. I see a few guys here in the live talk. I see Kesla here, everyone. Sydney, Australia is here. Thank you, everyone, for joining in the live chat. I'll keep it at this for today. And next week, absolutely make sure to join in next week, because I talk about Dutch auctions. I'll tell you what Dutch auctions are, and chances are likely Xandeum will use a Dutch auction to auction a few more PNodes, about like 50 PNodes or so that are still up there for grabs. And I'm excited to use a Dutch auction for that, and I'll give you that intro of what a Dutch auction is in next week's video, Thursday at noon Pacific time. So make sure to join in. And for today, thank